Okay, everybody. Nice to see ya. I'm back a week late for a couple books, but that's because I got sick last week. So I will be doing a couple books from last week and then all the books I bought for this week to make up for it. So to start off, I'm going to go with Uncanny X-Force number 5.1, which is by Rick Remender and Raphael Albuquerque, which I hope I'm saying right because that's where I'm broadcasting from. Whose art is really amazing, I thought. So the 5.1 issues, in case you didn't know, are supposed to be for new readers, people who don't know the teams or don't know the story, as a good jumping on point for somebody who wants to get into the book but doesn't know where to start. Unfortunately, none of them have really come off that way. The Spider-Man was okay, but not really. I mean, they're all good books, generally, but they're just not really origin stories. They don't really tell you much about what's going on in the book recently or kind of bring you up to speed. I kind of thought that this one did a really good job of that. Well, not a really good job, but a good job, that's for sure. They tell you all about who X-Force is and what they do and kind of what their problems are with and who they are. Is they're a stealthy X-Men team that kills people or does the dirty work that X-Men probably wouldn't do because they're heroes or whatever. None of the other X-Men know it exists. Scott Summers started it a long time ago, but he thought he canceled it and then didn't, turned out to be. And the people on the team are Wolverine, Phantom X, Angel, which is Archangel, I guess, kind of, Betsy Braddock, which is Psylocke, and I think that's it. Oh, and Deadpool, of course. So it makes for a really interesting team of characters. A lot of them have healing factors of one kind or another, but they're pretty lethal, especially in this book. So right off the bat, you see something like Wolverine being dead, and Lady Deathstrike standing over him, which is a really great splash page I plan to be putting on the Marvel database at some point as her main picture, if I get to it someday. And so that leads to some confusion, and then they jump back an hour before that and talk about all the stuff that's going on, how they're going to Australia, and they're going to fight the Reavers because Gateway, the Australian outback mutant, who has teleporting powers, which I thought was interesting that he's in this because a lot of the teleporters, if not all of them, were killed or taken out during the invasion of Utopia not too long ago, and nobody ever thought about Gateway being involved in it. I guess he stands on the sidelines often enough that they really don't have to worry about him being part of the team. Anyway, he warned them that the Reavers were coming to make him do something, or the results were going to be bad or whatever. I never heard of the Reavers before. I'm sure they're pretty big in X-Men lore. Apparently they were before my time. But Wolverine does a really good job of explaining who they are and how close they came to actually destroying the X-Men at one point. And Psylocke talks about how they reprogrammed her or something like that. They really did a number on her soul, and she's really pissed about that whole thing. She didn't know how she was going to handle herself when she saw him again. So they're kind of chumpy characters, but I guess they have a really rich and deep, dark history, so that's pretty cool. Anyway, let's see. Their whole plan is to get Gateway to take them to Utopia so they can blow up Utopia. But that, of course, or they're going to kill his tribe. That's what's going to happen. So they almost do it, but they don't do it, of course. And really, I think the most awesome part about this whole book was how much violent gore there is in there. I don't know if anybody else is a big fan of gore, but you don't get a lot of getting stabbed in the face in comic books these days. Even though he has a healing factor or whatever, but that is just rad. I saw that immediately. I had to look up who the whole art team was and go, yes, that's awesome. Because you usually get a small stab to the stomach. There's usually not much blood. I'm all for some realism in how these things are taken. Superpowers or no, amazing training whatever, right? But still, you're going to take a punch to the face, or you're going to miss a punch, or something's going to land weird sometimes, right? So some claws through the face, that's pretty freaking rad. And then there was one other part, oh yeah, at the end, when Betsy catches up to everybody, catches up to the last remaining bad guys that made it to Utopia or whatever. She like cuts their heads off. She cuts them pieces by piece until they're gone. So that was really awesome too. And maybe I'm just a sucker for gore or whatever, but I really liked those aspects of this issue. On the negative side, I've been reading Uncanny X-Force because it's been recommended to me since the beginning. So I started at 3 and worked my way back and then continued on with it. And I didn't really love the whole apocalypse story at the beginning, but it kind of solidified the fact that they're there to do things that the X-Men won't do, and that that they have a crisis of conscience about it. I don't know. It was alright. Anyway, and then they're getting into this whole alternate future Deathlock kind of thing, which I'll talk about in the next blog video on the X-Force number 6. But 5.1 really didn't tie into the rest of the story. And maybe that's why it's a 0.1, because it's a standalone story where you can jump in, you don't have to know anything, gives you a little bit of backstory. I guess, but it would have been nice if it could have tied into everything else too without having to be a standalone story on its own. I mean, it's really, they took like a story that they're in the middle of for 4 and detoured and went to 5.1, or maybe they did 5 for the last one, whatever the numbering is. But they took it in the middle of the story, went to a completely different story, and then went back to the same story with 6. So it's really weird, because I was really enjoying the bigger outside story more. So, not that I have anything against really this story, but, you know, I don't have any investment in the Reavers or anything. So, it's alright. I'm enjoying the main story of X-Force more than this. So if you bought this thinking that it was a good place to jump on, you didn't really like it, I would say read the rest of Uncanny X-Force before you give up on it. At least the story that they're currently working on, because I think it's awesome, being an alternate universe nut as I am. So that's it for Uncanny X-Force number 5.1. I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. My name is Nathan. I go by Peteparker on the Marvel database. If you have any questions, you can leave me a message at usertalk Peteparker. Just poke around the site and I'll probably be there. All right. Thanks a lot.